All right, so that's it. That kind of brings us to our movie of the week, which is as I mentioned previously, the 36th entry film-wise into the MCU Thunderbolts, which officially came out yesterday. The preview night was Thursday. If you checked this out last week for our non-spoiler segment, Jason and I were actually fortunate enough to be in the fan event advanced screening the Tuesday prior, which is where we got those cool boxes of popcorn, which I will say I did finish one the other day, and it was not stale yet. So there is that, which I thought was kind of cool. It is not stale. I thought it was going to be garbage, and I was just going to empty it out, and that was going to be it. But they actually held up. So we have that spoiler ticker on the bottom. So if you did not see Thunderbolts yet, please go away and check us out another time. Unless you don't care about spoilers and you're fine with it, we're going to be spoiling the shit out of this movie moving forward. So you have been warned. Again, ticker is on the bottom. I know it just came out officially yesterday, so not everyone has seen it. If you have, please join in the discussion, drop comments, questions, whatever you want. All right, so some people did get to go to the fan event. There was another one on Thursday night, which was an IMAX. That's where I got to kind of get this cool keychain for Regal people who got the asterisk on there. That's kind of cool. And also a comic book, which you got we got as well. So that was pretty cool. And these tickets were the Thunderbolts tickets that Jason and I got from the advanced thing. So a lot of cool promotion, marketing by Marvel Studios for this thing, because they are pushing this thing. Because I also kind of feel like when they go to certain extents, I kind of feel like they know they've got something special and they've got something big on their hands here. Not saying that they don't market all their movies, but I've noticed over the last some odd years, some get a little bit more than others. Right? Like, again, I think it's their inner confidence in this. It's a strategic financial decision.
Absolutely. To call out a movie that they clearly weren't as confident about, that we reviewed and liked, was the last Captain America with with the Falcon, because the entirety of their marketing campaign was the Red Hulk, and he's in it for like 10 minutes. And so they were, I think on that, they were kind of like, oh, I don't know if we're going to get asses in seats here. The Red Hulk might do it. And I think that ultimately hurt them, because it left people with expectations. Mm-hmm. And honestly, Ed, how cool would it have been if we didn't know that was going to come, and then all of a sudden Harrison Ford turns into the Red Hulk? Like, but it would have been awesome. But clearly they didn't have as much confidence in the movie. But with this movie, I feel they absolutely had the confidence. The fan events, the promotion, like they actually give you nothing in the promotion, like outside of like Bob, which we all knew who he was. I mean, we knew the fucking was in the movie. So I actually and they didn't lean too heavily on Bucky, which they could have very easily in the promotion. So clearly they were confident in this movie, and I think they had every right to be.
Yeah. So I guess on our overall thoughts part of this thing, I thought this movie was awesome. I absolutely loved it. I mentioned in our PCP WhatsApp thing, for me, this is top tier MCU. And when I say that, let me just also be crystal clear. I'm not saying it's Captain America Winter Soldier. I'm not saying it's Avengers Infinity War. I'm not saying it's the first Avengers. Like, that's like the elite of the elite of the elite. This movie is, for me, is right there with like Guardians of the Galaxy, the original one, which and a lot of people love, and I do as well. I would even say I also love, and I know I tend to rank Captain America, the first Avenger, higher than some others. That's where I have it. I would even say to some extent, I was going to say, do I think it's on the level of the original Iron Man?
Oh, no, I think I think that for me, that's maybe, top 5.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe slightly not, but I think it's on a level of like Spider-Man No Way Home. I do think it's on the level of Shang-Chi. And I would even say Deadpool and Wolverine, but this is such a drastically different movie than Deadpool and Wolverine. Like, and it's drastically different than a lot of those movies. This movie has a lot to say where some other Marvel movies, a lot of the better Marvel movies have a lot to say to it, and like using like, you know, allegories and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Thunderbolts leans heavily into this is about second chances, and all these characters that are on our wallpaper, they're all looking for a second chance here, one way or the other, to recapture things, and kind of they all have like sketchy past or like blood in their ledger, as Natasha Romanoff, the original Black Widow, would say. They have a lot of that stuff, and they're looking for that. And also the villain, you know, the villain of the movie, again, we're talking spoilers, Bob, who is the Sentry / Void, his whole character is dealing with like mental health and stuff like that. And his entire thing is that.
His whole journey is a trauma allegory because he was hurt when he was younger. You see that he was abused by his father. He gets into drugs, which addiction is a very big coping mechanism for a lot of people who deal with who experience trauma in their early ages. He gets this power. He gets this power because he was looking they promised him they could make him better, and that's what he wanted. He didn't want to feel this way. And when he becomes the Sentry, that part of him, that good guy, because Bob is a good guy. Bob's a really good guy.
Yeah.
But when Sentry comes forward and Bob goes away, Bob goes into these mental places. He regresses to these traumatic memories, and the trauma, you know, sort of takes over, and that's what the Void is. And I think, like, I thought that was a brilliant way to frame this character.
Yeah, and even the creator of the comics of Sentry and Void, they've even said like his portrayal in this movie is like spot on. Like this is exactly what you get when we're talking about just last segment. When we're talking about The Last of Us and the characterization based on source material. Like this is like nailed down there. I don't think they nerfed him or anything like that. Like his power set was there. And remember, this is also him just kind of like learning what he can do. I mean, in this movie, in his journey, we see he's learning his powers. Like even Valentina doesn't know what the hell he can do. And he calls her out on that in one scene later in the film. But yeah, but reeling back to the overall thoughts, like I absolutely adored this. This movie feels very different for the MCU. It feels like an original like thing, which I've always said that my thing with the MCU is I love that they give us different types of films within a shared universe, one franchise, but there are like sub-franchises. And when they give us different types of movies like that, that's when I really think I like the MCU even more. And this movie gives us that, but yet at the same time, I still get the feeling of like original MCU. Like just the way some of the playbook plays out to an extent, even like the post-credit scene and a mid-credit scene, that felt like something they've used. They used it as a tool to get you super excited for what's coming next. And that's what I think they need to get back to. Like, get back to some of that formula, like the original recipe in some ways. Get back to that. Right. Yeah, right?
Like, you're giving us extra crispy, but we want the original recipe.
Yeah, we want the original recipe here. So I have nothing but, like, rave things to say about that. I'm not saying it's like a perfect film, but I would highly recommend this. And it's not just, oh, this is good for post-Endgame MCU. I think it is definitely like that. Like I said, the post-MCU, Endgame MCU, for me, Spider-Man No Way Home, Shang-Chi, Deadpool and Wolverine, or Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Like, those are the four that are kind of like above everything else. But this is right there, and also better than a good chunk of the pre-Endgame MCU movies, in my opinion. Like, I actually might go see this again for a third time at some point soon. Like, that's why, like, I was genuinely excited to see it again. Jason, now that we can talk spoiler free about, like, what did you feel, like, what were your thoughts now? You can no, we don't have the tape on our mouths now.
All right, so I love this movie. I absolutely love this movie. I think, and I said this to you the night of, I think this movie is what that original David Ayer Suicide Squad was trying to do. Like, because you called Void you called Sentry the villain. He's not. Valentina's the villain of this piece.
That's why I air quoted it. For those who are listening and not yet.
Because Valentina is the one, like, she initiates all of this. She's been using the Thunderbolts independently to clean up some fucking corrupt shit she was doing, the Century Project, because now she's under investigation. She tries to have them kill each other and then kill them all at once. She eventually hijacks Bob and convinces him, and that's when he starts going into the void, whatever. It was both work. But she is the villain, and I think that is what Suicide Squad,
yes,
right? Tried.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, no, that's right.
Viola Davis was the villain, but in that there was so much of it that didn't work, right? Because that it's like, well, I don't buy these people like each other. I don't buy that they don't like each other. I don't buy that they've realized that they need to work together. I don't buy that they can fight the Enchantress, right? I don't buy any of this. But this movie gives us those relationships, and you know what? At the end, and it does what I think every great MCU movie does. Anyone who listens to the show knows I'm a sucker for this. The last battle is not a drag out fight. It's an I've come to bargain. No, we're using, but instead of using intellect, they're using emotions. They're using, okay, we have to overcome the trauma. We have to become a team. We have to actually bond. Because you're right, we can't fight Sentry. We can't beat him. He's wiping the floor with us. We're no one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, well, I was going to say, that's another thing, too. Like, there's a lot of things, and this is the second MCU movie we've seen do this kind of, like, and it's different. Or, like, you mentioned Captain America or Brave New World recently, where basically, again, spoilers for that, too, if you haven't seen it, but Sam Wilson can't beat the Red Hulk. Like, that's pretty damn obvious, right? Steve Rogers probably couldn't beat the Hulk either, if we're being completely honest, in a hand-to-hand fight. There's no chance. But he uses, his qualities of talking him down and, his whole thing as, working in, like, therapy groups and stuff like that as his weapon to win. So he can't beat him in hand-to-hand. Now, the Thunderbolts cannot hand-to-hand combat beat Century or the Void. Like, there's no chance, especially in that final battle where the Void is, he's voiding people. He is sending them to the Void. And it's funny because, like, those who, the crowd reactions to both of this, those who may have not been that familiar with the Century or Void, when you see him doing the boom, boom things, like, it looks like they're all dying. Like, they're not, he's just wiping them out like that. And he, and that's happening. So they know that they can. And plus, he kicks their asses in Avengers Tower, the Watchtower. He bends U.S. Agent Shield in half when he turns it into the taco. He whips Bucky's arm off and basically beats him with it. Obviously, Valentina, Red Guardian, Ghost, they have no chance against him. And I see that we have our poster in the back. Spoilers.
Yeah.
Taskmaster doesn't quite make it too far.
I'm going to say that's my only ding about this movie is Taskmaster's not in this movie. Like, she's just not. Taskmaster is shot in the head in her first scene.
Yeah, she's got basically a cameo in this, and that's where in some ways, like in Suicide Squad, we had this dude like with the grappling hook who kind of dies on the first mission, and he gets killed off immediately. And with these types of movies and these types of teams, I do think you kind of need that in a way to just show you, like, basically anything's on the table at that moment. Now, I also think this is Kevin Feige and the MCU also doing something where they know fans, since Black Widow, when this version of the Taskmaster was introduced, they got a lot of shit for the portrayal of Taskmaster. Now,
and they fucked up. I want to say they messed up.
Yeah, exactly. Now, and we're not even saying just because it's a woman. It's because, like, the character wasn't given really any character development at all. Like, it was just she was just there,
and she wasn't the Taskmaster. That's the thing. I don't care if it's a woman, fine, but make it the Taskmaster. This was like one of the Red Room people who was turned into a soldier that had abilities the Taskmaster had, but that was about it. And the Taskmaster is one of those villains that, like, people really rally behind. I know Bear, a friend of the show, like, he'll say, like, Taskmaster is one of the few people he'll say that could rival Batman. So it's like he's got a following of fans.
Yeah, and it pissed off a lot of fans. So I do think, in a way, this was kind of Kevin Feige. Like, again, whether he chose to do this or not specifically, I think it was him kind of throwing the fans a bone. Like, all right, we're going to use this character as the expendable one to show you that anything can happen in this film. And we're going to reintroduce the character, and then wipe them clean. And that's it. Right. Now, I'm not saying, like, I was actually going to say, I do wonder if there's a chance we might get a proper Taskmaster down the line. I think it's on the table, but I wouldn't like hold my breath waiting for it. They may have just tried to like maybe kind of just erase this and that's it and move on. Like, hey, we admit it. This is one of our goofs from Black Widow. We're gonna course correct that in a way, and this is how we chose to do it.
Yeah. Although having said all that, I did like it's a shock when she gets killed because like there's no dancing around it. Like what's her name? The Ghost. Ghost literally just shoots her in the head.
Yeah, right in the middle of that battle in the beginning, where Jason, you had mentioned that Valentina kind of sets up Yelena, sets up John Walker / U.S. agent, and Ghost and Taskmaster, sends them all to the bunker, and basically has them assignments to kill each other. And yeah, she just cold-heartedly Ghost shoots her right in the fucking head, and she's off the board, like immediately. But yeah, no, there's I thought that was a pretty interesting choice, but I thought it was the right one. And it's funny now looking back on some of the trailers, you see her added into certain scenes that we know she's not in. So this is also Marvel getting back to some of their tricky marketing. Like, remember the Hulk in Infinity War was in that in the Battle of Wakanda? That's the one that always sticks out to me, like, immediately.
Or who wasn't in one of the battles in Spider-Man No Way Home, right?
Yep, there was also that, who we damn well know. So, yeah. And I think, I guess we can also go character by character, like, so before we get to, like, more of the story here is, so Yelena, she's the focal point of the film, right? Like, she's the main character, more or less, and her relationship with Red Guardian, who, I mean, David Harbour is fantastic. Just, they're both like excellent in this film, but like when he shows up to save them from when they're getting chased down by by those agents. But I kind of feel like when him and Bucky both enter the film properly and they enter the main story we're following, I think the movie it's not slow before that, but I think it picks up another notch once that whole scene goes down. Once we see Red Guardian and his limo pulling up and he's beeping and Yelena's the daughter ashamed of him and like pretending to like he's not there and everything like that.
Because it's like her dad is coming to rescue them in his dadmobile, right? His limo, which he finds out the way he finds out is hysterical because he really wants to work for Valentina as the Red Guardian. He misses being in the mix of it. He runs his own limo company. He decides to take the job for Valentina, driving the limo himself. Overhears her saying how she set them all up to kill, to be killed, and goes, "Oh no, I've got to go save my daughter." Because again, like talking about like we just did with The Last of Us, like they're not blood related, but they are father and daughter. That's their relationship, and he just doesn't even question. He just goes right out there.
Yeah, he goes right into the battle there, and he suits up in his whole Red Guardian, get up and everything, and he's gonna go and save his daughter, immediately. And then the scene that you see in the trailers where they're in the limo and it's John Walker, Yelena, and Red Guardian, and and Ghost is there too, and they're like getting chased down, and then Bucky shows up and like saves the day and stuff like that, but also takes them down because he needs them. That whole sequence is great. And back to Yelena though, like her whole thing, like even in the opening scene of the film, we see a lot of her dealing with a lot of shit because, again, she's dealt with like the loss of her sister, which is still weighing on her a lot. She's working for Valentina, who's got her doing these black ops missions for her and cleaning up her mess. And even when in that scene, she is basically wiping out anything that's left that could be evidence used against her, because Valentina is getting impeached. She's the head of the CIA in this film when it opens, and that's where Bucky is also introduced, where he is the congressman, again following up from Captain America: Brave New World. So we do see him in that, and my prediction for Bucky was incorrect, saying that he was, his past was going to come back for him, but technically it doesn't really. He's on this impeachment committee, and he's trying to like take down Valentina because he knows like she's into some shady shit. But with Yelena, though, like she's battling depression. She's battling like not wanting to, like her past and her mistakes, like what Red Guardian mentions to her later in the film. That's what she's dealing with. She's got a lot of guilt. She's between the guilt, losing her sister, which we saw obviously in Avengers Endgame. Like there's a lot there, and also not having spoken to Alexei, Red Guardian, in a year or so. She brings that up multiple times, which tells you that it's on her mind. She's dealing with a lot too.
And then we also see connection.
She needs something. Like she's trying to get more out of life, and she's not loving what she's doing. She thinks she can do more, and she even tells Valentina, like, "I want more of a front-facing thing." Before Valentina is like, "Oh yeah, sure." I mean, and then we're gonna set you up, and I'm gonna wipe you off. We'll put an end to this crap. But I do think like she does drive the film.
Yes, Yelena. She's our main character.
Yeah, she is. And not that everyone, like, I think the only character I think that maybe gets shortchanged out of the team, and again, we already addressed Taskmaster here. Ghost doesn't really get all that much. That would be one of my maybe dings of the film, but I also think it's an ensemble, so,
Yeah, it's hard to juggle. But I think Ghost gets some stuff, like, Ghost kills Taskmaster. That's one thing.
Yeah.
And I think, I'm trying to think of what else. Yeah, now that I think
kind of just in battle,
they could have given her a bit more emotional, because she's also like literally someone who spent her life not being able to touch people, right? Like phasing in and out of reality. And I think that was a missed opportunity there, because every one of the team is dealing with the lack of human connection and the sadness, right? John Walker, we find out his wife left him because he just can't focus on being a father, right? Yeah. Alexei can't get over the fact that he's stuck here with all of this power and can't do anything because he's just driving a limo, and he, because of that, and he lost his daughter, and because of that, he's not talking to his other daughter. We talked about Yelena. Bucky, well, Bucky's Bucky. He's a bit different here, but he also has that disconnection of the Winter Soldier, right? Like he lost years of his life. He did terrible things. And then we talked about Bob and his trauma. So you'd think that they would have capitalized more on the fact that Ghost also had this going on. But you're right. They don't. That's all from another movie. They don't really mention that in this.
Yeah, that's one of the things I would give this one, is that I just think Ghost needed more to do here and stuff like that. And then who knows, maybe if this group gets a follow-up of some sort that's not Avengers Doomsday, because that's not really the time for that, I would hope to see them do this. But yeah, I would like to see her get more around. But it's interesting you bring up Bucky, right? Because Bucky also, he's again very disconnected with it. He mentions how his age, he lost many years of his life. And also, let's not forget, like, even though he has Sam Wilson, as a buddy in this, even though they were kind of like, that's his friend, but he doesn't have Steve anymore. Like, we also don't technically know officially if Steve Rogers is dead, or is he just like old and living his life. We don't really know, which I think they're being somewhat vague on that on purpose, but I don't know. I feel like they've done that strategically. That's there, but for the most part, though, he doesn't have his best friend anymore. Like, he's kind of in this world alone. more or less.
Right. And it kind of mirrors what Steve went through when he first came. And that's why all jokes aside about them being each other's lives, that's why he was so important to Steve, because it was his connection to his past. But and he chased it down and he saved Bucky. But now Bucky doesn't have anything like that. He only has the present. He has no connection to the past. So I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. And also to the fact that Bucky just has, you mentioned he doesn't have his connection to the past. The only past he has a connection to is his time as a Winter Soldier, because everyone and their mother knows it.
Yes.
And I think that weighs on him quite a bit, because it's been brought up in the film quite a bit, where they do mention that constantly. You can see like his reaction to it is like, fuck, like, remember, I had no choice who I worked for. Like, I was brainwashed. I mean, it's not my thing. But Sebastian Stan also can play Bucky standing on his head at this point, and he's great in this film as well.
He's such a good actor.
Yeah, and he also he is kind of like, him and Yelena are the co-leaders, more or less, of the Thunderbolts. Like, that's what at least the way I kind of saw this thing.
Yes. And
John Walker, though, like, his whole thing is, and it is brought up early in the film, where, yes, he's known as the dime store Captain America, which is a pretty big zing there, or, and stuff like that. And it's thrown into his face multiple times. And that's something, it's an embarrassment, right? For the most part, he's a failed Captain America. He's a failed, washed up super soldier, essentially. Again, who, like you mentioned, like Alexei, has all this power, but
and nothing to do with it. And he even says, like, but I was a decorated officer. Like, he's even trying to assert, like, no, I'm more than just that moment. And then Ghost says, like, didn't you murder someone, innocent unarmed person? And he went, define innocent. So I think that's interesting too, because he's clearly still wrestling with that, and it's like, he still wants to be the good guy. And that was the thing about John Walker in the show. He wanted to be the good guy. He just wasn't prepared for the power.
Yeah, because it's true. It's like, and it brings back to what Captain America is. Like, they tell John Walker, like, you're an asshole. Which, again, more or less, he wants to do good, but he maybe is not the best with people and stuff like that.
No, he's not a bad guy, but he's not a good guy. No, you know what? He's a good guy in the sense that he wants to do the right thing. He's not a nice guy at all. He's a jerk.
Yeah, he is, and that's why he's not Captain America, and that's why Sam Wilson is Captain America. More or less, like, Sam Wilson is the good guy. Like, we went back to when we talked about Captain America of Brave New World, like when Erskine points at the heart of Steve Rogers of why he was getting it, and that's why he passed on the shield to him. John Walker was being forced on him, the government Captain America, and didn't have the qualities of what it really takes. And I guess too, then we can lean more into like Red Guardian, who is the comedic, foil in this film. But he's not. He is more than that. He is funny as he is, and David Harbour is hilarious, and mostly in his delivery of the lines of what he's saying, because he makes it funny. He's also dealing with just holding on to his past. He was supposed to be, when all jokes aside, he was supposed to be the Russian Captain America. He did save people at one point. That gets mentioned in this, and that's when he felt like at his glory, at his highest point, he was saving people. He was doing things. He loved the admiration, the cheer that he would get.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, we view him as kind of, he was a villain, but he wasn't a villain to the Russians, right? He did save people. He did, we view the Russians as the villains. So that's why we viewed him as the villain. But in his head, he wasn't out there, and he wasn't out there just murdering people. Like, when we see him, the one glimpse we get of his past in Black Widow, he's doing industrial espionage. He's not murdering anyone. He's not a killer. He's not psychotic. He's doing exactly something like that Captain America would do. It's kind of like, it goes back to Red Sun, right? The Superman comic, right? He's got the morality of Kal-El, but it's sort of shaped differently by his culture. It's the same thing with Red Guardian. I think Red Guardian in his prime had the morality of a Steve Rogers, but it was shaped in a different culture, so it looks differently. But I think he is a good guy in his head and in practice for the most part. And now here he is washed up with no one's calling. He's not being able to help anyone. He's desperately trying to find meaning. And the fact is, yeah, he is the comic relief, but he's also the dad of the group. He's also the heart of the group. There's this beautiful moment between him and Yelena when the void is voiding people, and he says, "No, what do you?" And she's like, "I'm going in there." And he's like, "You can't. I can't lose another daughter." And he's like, "She was like, you didn't talk to me for a year." And he goes, "I know. I'm not perfect, but it doesn't mean I don't love you." And that's one of the most emotionally powerful scenes, and it comes from the comic relief, and I think that really speaks to his character. Like, yeah, he's funny because he's this man out of time and culture, but he's also a really good person. He's a real person.
Yeah, and as much as he he wants to get, and it's played for jokes a lot, is that he wants to get that glory, and he wants, because he even screams like for glory, and he's the member of the team that is genuinely excited to do this whole thing, to save the day, to eventually be where they are at the end of this film. And I will hold off on that for a second before we get to where this story takes them. But he is so excited to get this. And it's played for laughs, but when you really think about it, Alexei Red Guardian, again, he's finally the hero again. He's finally got a chance to do what's right and everything like that.
It's his redemption. They're all looking for redemption. This is his.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just. And the thing is, his redemption is not just about being the hero for the populace. It's also a redemption in being the father for Yelena that she needs. Like, part of what she's looking for is family connection. She lost her sister, and this is her dad, and her dad has been ghosting her. And part of his redemption is providing that emotional link, that familial contact that she's looking for to his daughter. And he didn't ghost her because he's a bad guy. He ghosted her because he's also grieving for his daughter. He's also grieving for all these things. It's complicated. And I think that really is why I like this movie so much, is because they are looking for redemption, and they are all complicated characters. And sometimes that redemption doesn't always look like I'm the hero who saves the day. And in his, yes, but I think it goes farther than that with the father aspect.
Yeah. So also, I guess we'll hold off on getting more into Louis Pullman's Bob in a second, but Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who is Valentina, and this is the most she's given to do the MCU, even though we've seen her kind of like the bad Nick Fury popping in and out of a lot of different projects here for a while, but now she's front and center, and we had mentioned she is the villain of this film. She is going to be impeached, and she sees her way out at the last second when she's cleaning out, because she sees that Bob still exists and that somebody survived the Century Project, which is kind of like, in a way, they were trying to create their own Avenger. And a lot of people were dying, and it was very similar to the Super Soldier Project, I think, as well. Like, there are people who weren't taking it. And she is pushing that, and then she sees and she gets Bob, and she makes sure that he's not killed and stuff like that, and like trying to still take out the team, but wants to save Bob because Bob is her get out of jail free card. If she can show the public and the Senate and everyone that she did create an Avenger, who she herself says is more powerful than all of the Avengers rolled up into one. Like, this is Earth's mightiest hero. She also uses Bob and manipulates the shit out of Bob because she knows Bob is looking for someone to like make him feel better about himself and a lot of things, and pump up his ego and things like that. So when she gets a hold of Bob eventually, she starts doing all of that, and she gives him this. She talks him out of it, even though we also see a little bit into her past where Bob puts her into the void. And we find out, like, when she was a child, she was in her town, and essentially like accidentally gave her father up, and her father gets murdered because of her actions. That's where her guilt lies. That's why when she goes to the void, that's what she sees. And it does rattle her, like big time here, because then she's also seeing what Bob can do. Because while she's pumping Bob up, she has no idea the limits of his powers. No, absolutely no clue what she's playing with here. She's playing with something that's more than a nuclear weapon, and Bob. And her assistant says it perfectly. Like, you put these super soldier serum into Steve Rogers, you get Captain America. You put this kind of power into someone like Bob, who is, more or less, unstable, you don't know what the hell you're going to get. And we find out, like, she creates something like bonkers.
Yeah. And I think it's really interesting, too, now that we're talking about it and I'm thinking about it. Like, Bob's whole thing, right, is same as the rest of them. He wants human connection, right? He had an abusive family. He went off on his own. He got into drugs. He couldn't, he just doesn't want to feel the weight of the trauma he's carrying. He wants to belong, right? Mm-hmm. And when we first meet him, he's Bob. And they're not necessarily being nice to him, but he doesn't void out on them.
No.
Right? He because there is something that he is connecting with. And I think it's specifically Elena in the beginning. But there is a connection there. And then he only voids out after Julia Louis-Dreyfus gets him. And she's trying to feed him this connection, right? Mm-hmm. She's trying, but it's inauthentic. And I think like part of that is he feels that. And that's what brings the void out. And then, the end, it's the Thunderbolts come together and pretty much hug the shit out of him to allow him to sort of feel like he's part of something. And that's what gets rid of the void at the end. So I think it's really interesting, too, that like in the beginning, they're not trying to connect with him, but he senses some authenticity and something in him, in them. Right. And maybe it is they're all looking for connection. They all need something from people, even if they can't see it. But Valentina isn't that. Valentina does have an equally messed up past that she's trying to outrun, but she's not trying to form connection. She's trying to form power and can consolidate power and form herself and, be herself and the force and the person who controls the strongest person in the world. And I think that's why he voids out, is because of the inauthenticness of her trying to connect with him, as he feels that. And I think it's important why he's brought back by the Thunderbolts, because there is that authentic connection. So, again, these are all characters on the Thunderbolts looking for this connection in each other.
Well, she also, when she, like, I guess, so, tying into there, but she's great in this film. Like, Julia Louis-Dreyfus is great in everything she does and stuff like that. And you can definitely disdain her character as the villain. She makes you not like her and anything like that. And
but she's a great actress.
No, because she's the great actress. Yeah, when it's like when I talk about Joaquin Phoenix in Gladiator, like he's one of the most hated characters I've ever seen in film, but it's because he's so fucking good as an actor. When he's playing as a Canada sort of. So then when you meant, I guess it leads us into talking about Lewis Pullman's Bob more. You did a great job of like laying that whole thing out there, but he also voids when he does inadvertently send some of the Thunderbolts to the void. Like he sends Yelena the first time early in the film, and we see her in her first mission with the Red Room getting one of these young girls killed, right? Like lures them in to be murdered and assassinated. He puts John Walker into the void at another time because John Walker's also being a dick to him when they're trying to escape, and the whole trap that Valentina had set. We see him with his, his problems with his wife and his kid, and like you mentioned, he's not doing a great job being a father there. He's too embarrassed and dealing with all his faults. He's looking at his phone, and we see the whole public article there, the fall of John Walker. And what I thought was interesting, though, is that we don't see him void Bucky, even though it's talked about, it's referenced, after the fact. Ghost, You don't really see anything with her too, or
Yeah.
even Red Guardian, which I kind of would have been interested to see what their versions of the Void look like. But again, I get it's an ensemble. We don't know.
I mean, Ghost. I think Ghost is the one we should have gotten her Void.
We've seen a lot of Bucky's.
And then the thing is, I think Bucky, unlike the rest of them, has made peace with his past.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, that's why he's the unofficial leader, because he's the one who's, he has the checkered past, but he's made up for it. He's made peace with it. He's processed a lot of it. With the help of Steve Rogers, right? Because, again, it's about that human connection. I think for Red Guardian, I don't think he necessarily did anything evil. I think he just was the enemy, like I said, just different culture. But I think we should have seen a Ghost one. I think we should have gotten one for everyone in the room, because, like in the beginning when they find Bob, right? Because that's and I don't know. Maybe they didn't show us Ghosts because we just watched her blow an innocent woman's head off, and maybe how much darker can you go? I don't know, but I do think like the connections should have been made between those four, because they started off together. Bucky comes in later. Red Guardian comes in later. We know their past. I don't think it needs to be explored, but I agree with you. Ghost should have had a moment of Void moment.
Yeah, I just would have been a little curious, and I thought there is a good line there where, they ask Bucky about his, and he's like, "Yeah, I have a great past, so I'm just fine." I'm fantastic, so, which is cool. Like, again, I agree. For the sake of the film, maybe that's just enough what we needed. But I just would have been kind of interested to see some of it, and at least briefly. But, so, yeah, like you mentioned with Bob. Bob doesn't go full Void or anything like that until Valentina. He basically, when he has that conversation, when he's the Century, and he's talking to Valentina, and Valentina is like trying to show ownership and control over him. And he has a great line where he says, "Well, why would a god take orders from you?" And when he becomes self-aware, it's like, oh shit. And I even was both times I see it, I'm like, oh shit. Like, shit's about to get real crazy now. Yes, exactly. Like, it's true. That's the kind of thing you're dealing with. And Valentina has that look on her face, like, oh fuck. Like, there's this superpowered dude who's unstable, who I still don't know his full power set or anything, who I really need to clear my name and also keep me out of jail in all of this, who can propel me to like incredible power and lengths and stuff like that, because that is her motivation. But he almost like chokes her out and everything like that before that's all stopped, and he goes full Void at the end. After that, he's attacked. That's when you get those scenes in the trailers where he's just voiding people and doing that, but he's sending them to the Void. He's not murdering them. Both times you've seen this though, when that moment comes with the little girl.
The girl, it's a good
the whole theater gasps because she's just saved. It's this heroic moment, and it's like, oh, okay, we saved the day, and all of a sudden, boom.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh shit.
And I just had a thought that I want to explore here with you. I actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think it is Valentina that makes him go complete Void at all.
Oh, really?
I actually think, now that I'm thinking about it, I think it's because the Thunderbolts try to fight him. Because he's getting there, right? And he says, look, I'm helping her. But he says, I don't want to fight you guys. And Yelena, and they go, even Bucky, full force. But Yelena, if you remember, goes, no, she tries to stop them. And then when she can't, she joins in because he starts mopping the floor with them. But it's directly after that he turns on Valentina and tries to kill her. And directly after that he goes into the sky and starts voiding the whole city. So, going back to the connection, right? In the beginning, he found people that he thought he could connect with, people like him. And if you remember, the way Valentina gets her hands on him is he pretty much goes on a suicide mission. He doesn't know he's going to survive this. He goes on the suicide mission to save the rest of the surviving Thunderbolts so they can escape, and runs and starts shooting a gun and gets all this attention on him. And then Valentina starts upping his ego, starts bringing out that part of him. But I don't think it's until his friends attack him that he goes full Void.
Interesting. So, yeah, because the way that I had taken it is that I guess his friends attacking him could have started him on the path.
Well, I think it's the thing that kicks him over. Like, I think
lights the fuse, essentially.
Yeah. Valentina's getting him there, and he's like, I like the way this feels. I like to be the hero. She's made me promises. And then when they come, and he's like, I don't want to fight you, but they fight him and they attack him, it's directly after that he goes full void. And I think he's teetering, and that fight kicks him over the edge into the void.
Well, I guess also, thinking back on it, and before we dive completely into this, in the post-credit scene that happens, he mentioned something that he cannot be the Century without being the Void, because he can't control it.
Yes.
Yep. So I do
think the dishes.
Yes, he did. Hey, listen, Bob's trying to be useful any way he can. But I do think that there was some of that, though, because Valentina brings out the Century in him, feeds his ego, and I do think that part of it is vanity, right? Like, once he gets pumped up to that point, the void is inevitable, right? Like, his alter ego will pop up.
Come out,
once the vanity is pumped in there. So, leaning towards, again, the post-credit scene, he can't really be that without being both. And I think that's something that's going to be explored as these films go on. This is definitely not the last we're going to see of Century, Void, Bob.
Better not be. This was such a cool character.
No, he really is. I really, really enjoyed him. But there's also all the action scenes in this are really good. And like I said, at the end of the movie, it's not a big drag 'em out CGI battle. It's a very emotional takedown of how they take down Century, and temporarily, and they kind of just like talk him down essentially and get him emotionally in check. But after all of that and everything is where, when the movie, at the ending of it, Valentina also gives them a look at one point and sees the opportunity. You can see like the light bulb go off in her head, where she's like, oh, wait a second, I have another get out of jail free card. The public has seen this threat, has seen this group take them down. They're operating because, spoiler also, we find out it's fully confirmed, Valentina bought Avengers Tower and is renamed it to Watchtower here. So there's that happens. And she kind of, when they see her, they're kind of talking about all the ways they want to go ahead and destroy her. But she lures them in because we learned earlier the press was alerted because she was going to introduce the Century as Earth's mightiest hero. He was going to be their new person because, as said in the trailer, the Avengers aren't coming through that door. And long and behold, the team goes through after her, and the press is there. She gets in front of the podium and introduces this team that just saved the day as the new Avengers.
Yep.
Hence the asterisk in the marketing, which we did suspect was going to be, I thought it was more specifically Dark Avengers.
And I still think that's where it's going.
Yeah.
I still think that's where it's going.
Yeah, so it's interesting, but that's like the big oh shit moment at the end of this film, is that Yelena, Bucky, John Walker, Ghost, Red Guardian, and yes, Bob.
Not Taskmaster.
Not Taskmaster. Everyone else on the poster behind us, but not Taskmaster, because Taskmaster is fucking dead. They are the Avengers now. They are the government-sanctioned Avengers, and also great moment because once that's done, Yelena leans over to Val and says, we own you now. And she's like, fair, but I'm also not going to prison and I'm not getting impeached and I'm going to you guys may own me, but I also got what I wanted in the end, technically also.
Because she was just trying to stay out of prison.
Yes. That's all she wanted. That was her main thing. And yes, the power and stuff like that. But she's essentially the Nick Fury to this group of Avengers.
Yeah,
right?
Nick Fury.
Well, air quotes.
If you could imagine Nick Fury being less scrupulous and less trustworthy.
Extremely.
Right.
But with this group, more or less, you can be like, okay, I can see where their Nick Fury might be kind of.
Oh, absolutely. But like the thing is, Nick Fury is already unscrupulous and untrustworthy.
It's true. Because hey, listen, he will do what's got to be done to get the mission done, right? Like he's not.
Well, that's the difference between Nick Fury and Valentina is Nick Fury will sacrifice himself for the greater good because his mission is the greater good. He just cuts corners. No, not cuts corners. He just believes that the ends justify the means. Valentina is only out for herself. That's the difference.
Yeah. So throughout the credits, if you follow, there's a lot of like the public is rejecting this Avengers team for the most part.
It's almost as if they let certain part of the fandom write this in response to them being called the new Avengers. I love the B-Vengers was my favorite.
Yeah, there's a bunch of zings here, and we have them on the cover of the New Yorker, and like obviously they're trying to push to get them everywhere. But when you get the news articles that are there, they're totally rejecting. But I also think it's like you mentioned, it's smart because it's them being self-aware.
Yes.
Of the entire thing, which makes it genius to me that they're rolling with this. So there's a lot of funny moments there. And then it takes us to the mid-credit scene, which is Red Guardian in a supermarket. Alexei seeing a woman there who's shopping for cereal. Exactly. And we get
it's me. I'm on the cover.
Yeah, he's like suavely like, oh yeah, like and maybe you should choose this cereal. It's more to the liking, like. And she's like, "Who the fuck are you, dude?" And I'm like, "I'm on the box. I mean, it's me."
The great thing is, she takes the box and then squirrels away, and then before she turns away around, she puts the box down.
She's like, "No, fuck that." You can tell he's just like so like messed up by this. And then I fast forwards to the post-credit scene, which interesting facts about this post-credit scene, and some I've learned over the last 24 hours or so. So, number one, it is the longest post-credit scene in MCU history.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it has the longest runtime. Number two, this was not directed by the film's director. This was added in very late because it was directed by the Russo brothers, who this is supposed to be in Avengers Doomsday. And I don't know if we're going to maybe see it again or something like that, but like this was supposed to be a part of that, which I thought was fascinating and also extremely exciting.
Very
so
exciting.
in this post-credit scene, we get the team is there. You can tell it's been about a year later and stuff like that. They've been the Avengers for a little while now, but they're still openly struggling with being accepted by the public as the Avengers. Like the public just is like, who the hell are these guys? What are they doing here? Even it's mentioned here that Bucky had a conversation with Sam Wilson, who last we left him, was forming.
Who's copywriting.
Yeah, so apparently he's doing for copyright of the name. And I thought that was actually really funny because they asked Bucky, like, how did the conversation go? He's like, yeah, not well. He's trying to get the copyright of the Avengers, which is all interesting stuff to me, though, because when the original Avengers showed up, there was none of this kind of stuff. Like, they had Tony funding it. Cap was the strategic. He was the leader of it. They didn't need all this crap. But Valentina is trying to sell the team as the Avengers, and that's where this comes into play. And
I love that Red Guardian made the shirts, right, where it's just like the Avengers or whatever. I don't remember what it was, but it's just
a Z at the end of the S.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. The Avengers, so they can't get sued for copyright infringement.
Yeah, because he's obviously having a blast with this whole thing of being the Avengers now and stuff like that. Like he's finally kind of getting, for glory that essentially that he's kind of always wanted to get back again. So he's having a blast. You can tell out of all the team, he's the one who's probably having the most fun with this whole thing.
Yep.
And you had mentioned Bob is kind of there just doing the dishes. This scene is all in Avengers Tower. And
there's a great moment when they find out something's in space, and I'll let you do that. But I just want to say the Red Guardian thing. Red Guardian goes, how come you can't become Sentry? It'd be great. You could fly. And so I think it's John Walker's like, what are we all going to do? Just hold on to him as he flies up there? And he's like, that would look great. We would look great.
Yeah, he's like, we were going to ride Bob into space because they find out. Yelena mentions that they're being disrespected to the point where there is an interdimensional ship coming into the atmosphere, and they're not being told about it. So Bucky and Yelena are saying, "Hey, we need to go get our own fucking intel here, and let's pull up the imaging here and get a good shot of it." While that's going on, too, we also see John Walker has a beret now because they mentioned his helmet in the film or his hat and stuff like that. So he's got a new hat, so he's clearly there too.
Still got the taco.
Still got the taco. Didn't fix the shield. Didn't get a new shield. He's owning it and embracing this whole thing, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. And the interdimensional ship that's coming into space, and they get a closer look at it, and then we see it turn, and it's the Four. And we hear the whole theme, Fantastic Four! And they're showing up now, too, which is like, boom. Like, heads exploding. And apparently also, by the way, I wasn't the only one who was somewhat spoiled by this, because if you look at the credits and you read the credits and you see the songs, I happened to inadvertently catch Fantastic Four's First Step theme. I'm like, oh shit, that wasn't in the film unless I missed it. This got to have something to do with it. Now, so it was sort of maybe somewhat spoiled incidentally, but I heard on another show that they had mentioned that they had seen this and were warning people to maybe not read the credits for once.
Okay, that makes sense.
I thought it had something to do with Galactus initially. That's when I heard interdimensional thing. That's what I thought. My mind went there, but no. Apparently, it's the Fantastic Four are entering, the atmosphere of the sacred timeline, MCU. And we get the new Avengers and Bob will return. They don't say where. Lots to chew on with this. So, Jason, both you and I have shared our beliefs,
and this confirms my theory.
We hope so. I mean, unless there's a curveball being thrown at us that we're not seeing.
Right. I mean, so our theory on this show is that by the end of the Fantastic Four, something will happen with Galactus and their world, because it is an alternate universe, which we already know, where they have to jump here. And, my thought is they want to try to stop Galactus coming from here. I know, Ed, you think it has ties more into the next movie they're doing, and whatever their reasoning is, doesn't matter. But I think it does confirm, unless there's something we're not seeing, that they are leaving their world behind in their movie. And I would be very surprised if it does not get destroyed by Galactus. Like, I would be very surprised.
Yeah, and that also ties into the Fantastic Four trailer. That's the latest trailer that's from the movie.
Yes.
Like, we see at the beginning of the trailer, the Fantastic Four are being lauded by their universe as being potentially the only heroes that exist, or the most successful heroes of this. They're the saviors of that planet. Everyone is thanking them. Everyone, they're their bees knees over there. Action figures, yeah, like everyone universally loves them. But then, as the trailer goes on, we see Reed on the huge chalkboard. It looks like he's working on interdimensional space thing and stuff like that. And when there's a scene in the trailer where people asking them, are we going to be safe? And Johnny looks completely like, I don't know. Like, what's going on? Even Reed says, I don't know. And that's what I'm guessing is they've never faced something quite like Galactus yet. And there is uncertainty probably for the first time ever in that Fantastic Four team. And I don't know if I want to say that they necessarily lose in their film, but there's probably a difficult choice that's got to be made where they're going to have to let their planet go. Now, also, that ship is huge that we see. It looks awfully big, so they might be getting everyone that they can to maybe save as many as they can, but they can't save everyone.
It might be a Thor Ragnarok situation, right? Where, like, he loses at the end because Asgard is destroyed, but he gets as many people off his planet as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's a situation like that where he loses and wins.
Yeah. And with this post-credit scene, too, like, Also let's not forget too though, the Russo brothers directed this, and this is supposed to be part of Avengers Doomsday. I mean, at least that's been what's been said. So I also wonder too, like, where is this Avengers team? Like, are they going to be the Avengers still? Are they a part of a bigger Avengers team? Are like, I think there's a lot of questions to be asked there. I mean, in the comics, there are multiple Avengers teams. Like, there's not just the Avengers and that's it.
Right. I mean, maybe they become the West Coast Avengers.
Don't get Rick excited, man. Please.
I know.
That dude, if there's ever a West Coast Avengers in the MCU, he will be beyond himself.
Dude, Rick, not listening to this and having no idea why, just felt like he needed to sign on to this show. Just his Rick sense is tingling. I
don't know. There's a lot of good questions with that. But like I mentioned, though, this post-credit scene gets you jacked up for in July when we get, Fantastic Four First Steps.
I'm really excited for this Fantastic Four movie. I'm not going to lie. I am.
Yeah, me too. And also, we talked about marketing earlier when we went to see Thunderbolts, and also like when I seen it the second time, the whole IMAX thing is all Fantastic Four now, and that's not just Marvel movies. That's every movie now. Like they are.
Oh wow.
They're really doubling down, quadrupling down on the Fantastic Four First Steps.
Yeah, this I think this is good. It's going to be good. I think this is going to be the movie that maybe reinvigorates the fans for a bit. Because again, this is Marvel. This is the first Marvel family. This like if Marvel owned the rights to all of their properties when they started the MCU with Iron Man, Fantastic Four would have been the first movie we got. Now, I'm glad they didn't, because I think I like the trajectory it took.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a movie that, like, fans and I think everyone agrees we've not gotten a proper Fantastic Four movie. I know they're like I do have an affection for that the
first
not the Corman one, which we both we've talked about, but the original one that was produced, I have an affection for that. But like, it's not good.
No, it's not, especially by today's standards. It was solid for its time. When we reviewed it last year, I think it was, we were like, for its time, okay.
Yeah, but it still had, even for its time, it still had problems. I had a lot of problems with Doom. I mean, there's a lot to like about it, but it wasn't like the Fantastic Four movie that fans deserve.
And that's what I wholeheartedly believe. I would be shocked if that's not what we're getting. Based on the confidence that I'm sensing from Marvel Studios, everything there, just they're screaming. They even started going full court press promoting it already. The opening weekend of Thunderbolts. So, because this movie, I do think you had mentioned reinvigorating the fan base, right? Let's look at 2025 for the Marvel Studios so far. We've gotten Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which we both adored.
That was good.
Sure, Captain America Brave New World did not crush it and knock it out of the park, but still...
It was still good.
It was still good. I still enjoyed it and everything like that. And again, financially, I know it didn't knock everyone's socks off, but I've rarely met anyone. It's like, oh, that movie sucked or something like that. Like a lot of people hated the Marvels, which we both agree that it's a little overhated, but I had issues with, like, big issues with the Marvels as well.
That's not a perfect movie, but I would not argue that it's top tier either. I just think that it takes a lot more shit than it deserves.
Yeah, I would say the Marvels safely is like lower tier MCU again by the standards.
I would say lower mid. Like, I wouldn't put it in like Thor: The Dark World or the Eternals, which are two of the ones that I really don't like. I wouldn't put it that low, but I also wouldn't put it anywhere. I wouldn't put it like, I wouldn't rank it higher than Black Widow, which I think is like the mid tier. Like I liked it, but I don't watch it every year. Like, I haven't seen the Marvel since we reviewed it. That kind of
tells you what you need to know, like how you really feel about it.
Right, but I also when I'm talking about movies that I don't like in the MCU, I never say, "Oh my God, the Marvels." You know, for me, it's Thor: The Dark World and the Eternals. Those are the two that left a bad taste in my mouth. That one was just fine.
Yeah, you liked it more than I did, and I also don't like. I think it's overhated a bit, but again, you liked it more than I did. The two major scenes that ruined it for me was the singing crap and the flirting thing. Just that really hurt it for me.
The singing I didn't mind because I love musicals, but the flirting thing I wasn't crazy about. But I mean, whatever. You go back and watch a review on that.
Yeah, exactly.
But I also love Kamala Khan. Like, I think that actress is so charming.
No, she's great. She's absolutely great. And I like Brie Larson as Carol Danvers, even though
I do too.
Some people
I do too.
Shit on her for that. But talking about the 2025 of Marvel Studios, though, they followed up Captain America: Brave New World with Daredevil: Born Again, which is absolutely phenomenal. Right?
One of the best things they put out.
Yeah.
Like the best television. Like, again, I said, in my opinion, it's the best television the Marvels put out ever.
Mm-hmm. And now you follow up Daredevil: Born Again shortly after with Thunderbolts, which is crushing it on reviews. Audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, critic score, both some of the highest rated MCU film of ever. And then now, after that, I know we have Ironheart coming out. We'll see, how it goes with that. My expectations, I don't really have any for that. We'll see how that goes. And then you have Fantastic Four, which they're being very boastly about. Seems awfully confident for. So we'll see. There's a lot of cool shit coming down the pipe. I know we got the Black Panther animated series as well, Eyes of Wakanda, coming out later this later this year too. So still a lot of big stuff down the pipeline. But I think this for films, Thunderbolts really would be the one to reinvigorate this and Deadpool and Wolverine back-to-back years and not less than a year apart. I think are the ones to kind of really maybe light the fire of the MCU back, at least on the big screen.
Yeah.
So
agreed. I agree.
Anything else before we wrap this up?
I did want to share. I just got a text from Alex who could not join the show tonight, but he wanted me to remind everyone that, and actually he sent me a photo of something that you sent out, like you personally had shared out years ago, that the Kang Dynasty was supposed to have come out yesterday.
Oh, Kang Dynasty. Oh, man.
Oh, so because he said that, I didn't look at the photo. I was like, I don't know. It wasn't really. I gotta ask Ed. Was it supposed to? And then I looked at the picture. I'm like, oh no, yeah, no, this is from Ed. So clearly it was supposed to come out yesterday.
Yeah, that's a bummer. But I was just talking about Jonathan Majors' magazine Dreams earlier today. I got at a bar earlier with some friends, and yeah, he really screwed up.
He shit the bed.
He did.
Shit the bed.
He did, but and also from the MCU perspective, I do give the rollout of Kang, which we've talked about before. They all strictly from the MCU perspective, they kind of fumbled the rollout of Kang for the average audience. Not
Agreed.
Comic book fans in the know. I think we were on board with how it was going down, but you got to get casuals in to really sell this, and I think they made the right smart move to kind of pivot away. And plus, obviously, Jonathan Majors essentially made the decision for them,
right,
to pivot now. So,
yeah, because I think even after their foolish way they rolled him out in Quantumania, because if you think about it, he was sold to us as the biggest, baddest Kang ever, and he was beaten by some ants. I mean, that's a problem. But I think they could have rebounded from that. They could have pivoted. They still could have saved Kang Dynasty if Jonathan Majors didn't, do what he did.
Yeah, it sucks. Such a talented dude and stuff like that. But we got a pretty uber talented dude as the new big bad in Robert Downey Jr. returning as Dr. Doom.
Robert Downey Jr.
My God,
he can do no wrong.
Jason, if there was anyone to play Doctor Doom, I think for you, Robert Downey Jr., one of your favorite actors, also playing your favorite Marvel character.
Like I told you, the only reason I'm not upset that he's double dipping as Iron Man and Doom is because it's him personally.
Exactly.
Like that's the only reason I'm not upset, because you are one of the few people that I still keep in contact with from back in the old days. You can attest that I have been defending Robert Downey Jr. since way before Iron Man. When people were writing him off as a junkie and a piece of garbage, I was almost getting into bar fights with people about that man's talent.
Yeah. No, it should be pretty damn exciting. And we share also the same prediction that the post-credit scene for Fantastic Four First Steps has to be our first vision, the first time we see Doctor Doom.
It has to be.
It has to be. He's
got to be seen in a Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah, exactly. Post-credit scene is perfect for that. I don't want to steal the focus off Silver Surfer and Galactus and that.
No.
And the team. Let it be them.
Yeah, and especially because I've always said the perfect way to roll out Doom is to not make him the villain at first. Like I've always said, make him someone that works with them. They're probably taking it where we're not even going to see him till the post-credit, and that's fine with me.
Yeah.
But the two things I always say is, you want to really make a good Fantastic Four movie, don't make Doom the villain in the first one. You want to make a really good Superman movie, don't make Lex Luthor the villain in the first one.
Yeah, which I'm curious to see where the heck Superman takes that also, because we got that coming in July too.
I'm kind of excited about that with Jay's close personal friend playing Superman.
This is true. All right, so that wraps it up for us this week. Thanks for joining us as always.